Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars. Let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today, starting on this 4-hour time frame for Bitcoin, because we just lost this 0.786 Fibonacci level as a level of support, which was sitting at about 65.5k. So now the next big level of support on these lower time frames is this Fibonacci golden pocket, sitting from about 62k all the way up to 62.7k for the Bitcoin price. Now, if we just take a look at the technical analysis factors, why are we now seeing a pullback? Well, obviously we have been in this big uptrend here recently, where we saw about a 25% move to the upside. So we are due for a bit of a pullback here. Either way, besides that, we also have this bearish divergence here in the charts, which is when you have higher highs in the Bitcoin price and lower highs in the RSI momentum indicator. And typically this plays out either with some choppy sideways price action or potentially some bearish momentum here in the short term. Now, after this confirmed, over the weekend, we actually saw a bit of choppy sideways price action. However, we are now also seeing some bearish momentum here in the short term, although I would say that this Fibonacci golden pocket in the short term is going to be the critical level of support to really hold, because I do think it is possible that we sweep below here to sweep a bunch of liquidity down here. I will get to the liquidity later on in this video. So seeing a move like this, for example, so long as we do not lose this as a level of support, I do think it is possible that we just get a continuation to the upside here, with 62k being a clear level where if we lose this as a level of support, then likely we are going down much lower for the Bitcoin price. For example, at the very least to this 60k level, roughly speaking, to this 0.5 Fibonacci level sitting at 59.5k. But for now, it is a little bit early to start talking about much lower levels for the Bitcoin price, because we have this big level of support to the downside again in this Fibonacci golden pocket. Now, if we take a look at the bigger support and resistance levels for Bitcoin, recently we were trading inside this big level of resistance, sitting from about 65k all the way up to 66,000. And you can see right here that as soon as we reached into this level, we chopped around for a bit and then got a perfect rejection from that 66k level. It is quite likely that we come down to these lows right here, or basically just inside this big level of support below that, sitting from about 62.4k all the way down to 60,000 US dollars. Do keep that Fibonacci golden pocket in mind, sitting between 62k and 62.7k. Now, one other thing to take into consideration is the 4-hour RSI for Bitcoin, which is the Bitcoin momentum indicator. And this is getting pretty close to being in oversold territory here, which is whenever the RSI is below 30. Now, usually when the RSI is in oversold territory like this, then at some point you will need to see the RSI kind of reset back up to around that 50 level, which we see happen in the charts all the time. For example, right here, you saw it reset back up to 50, but you also have it with overbought, and then we reset back down to 50 as well. Although for now it is a little bit early to start talking about this, but it is something noteworthy. Like, for example, if you look at the 1-hour time frame, this actually already reached into oversold territory, so it wouldn't be strange to now see this RSI reset back up to around that 50 level. And in the case that you are not familiar with how the RSI actually resets, basically if we are in oversold territory, then the RSI resets either by some choppy sideways price action or potentially some bullish momentum in the short term. Although in this case, if you look at this trend here on the 1-hour time frame, this is clearly in a downtrend. So be careful expecting a move like this, because the trend is obviously down here. So to summarize this RSI section that I just talked about, the 1-hour RSI is in oversold territory. So we might see some choppy sideways price action, but do keep in mind that we haven't really reached that strong support below here. So therefore you could see a bit of a move lower first before we then potentially start chopping around. During a time like this where we are close to oversold territory, usually this tends to be a pretty good time to look for some trading opportunities, because there's a lot of volatility in the market. Either way, let's take a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map for today. First of all, on this 2-week time frame, as you can see right here, there is a lot of liquidity to the downside at about 62.3K for the Bitcoin price, with about $700 million worth of long positions that would get liquidated if the Bitcoin price reaches this level. Currently, we're trading at about 63.5K. So it is basically $1,000 down, and we would already sweep all of this liquidity here. And therefore, it would not be surprising to me at all if we actually grab this liquidity here. As I talked about earlier in the video as well, even if it's just a move like this, we already take out all of these longs here. They would lose their money on their trade. And even if we then bounce further to the upside, we would still have just grabbed that liquidity there. So that is potentially something to look out for in the charts if you're thinking about taking a short-term trade, but that is definitely not financial advice. I'm simply telling you what I'm looking out for in the charts, and you can do with that information what you like. Lastly, taking a look at the Bitcoin ETF flow tables for today. Obviously, last week we saw massive inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs, and as I said on Friday and Saturday as well, when we were getting these massive inflows, I said that it made me slightly nervous because every single time we've seen massive inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs like this, where it is a significant spike in comparison to the other days here, literally every single time so far, we have seen a reversal after that point, and they might have done it again here, boys. At this point, it is basically just a recurring event on the channel here, where every time we get to the top of the channel here, we wait for the massive inflows from the Bitcoin ETFs, and that is the exact moment we need to sell our stacks here. No, but all kidding aside, I do think that the uptrend can continue if we basically hold that Fibonacci golden pocket that I was talking about earlier. But if you just look at this chart objectively, if we really undercut these lows here with a confirmed daily candle close below that big level of support that I was talking about, then this would really look like a strong rejection, and we might need to revisit much lower levels for the Bitcoin price once again. Obviously, do keep in mind that we still have that CME gap all the way down here at about 53,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price, and typically over 90% of CME gaps tend to get filled. So therefore, odds are favoring that we eventually fill this CME gap, although it could also be after we get the end of the bull market and then we fill it on the way down, basically. But my base case remains the same as it has been over the last literally 6 months or so. So long as Bitcoin keeps trading inside this descending channel on the 1 day time frame, then Bitcoin can go to the top of the range and it can go to the bottom of the range as well, which currently is sitting at about 50,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. Although I do think that so long as we do not break below this descending channel here, that at some point, even if we get more choppy sideways price action, that eventually we are going to get a move to the upside, breaking above this descending channel, grabbing all of this liquidity right here at about 72K for the Bitcoin price, and then potentially making new all-time highs after that. So this has been my base case the entire time, but until then, we are basically just trading this range here. Lastly, guys, before I leave off here, if you are a crypto trader, come check out the Road to 1 Million community, because we have over 1,800 active crypto traders in here, and every single day people are discussing the crypto markets, discussing their technical analysis as well. So if that is something you're interested in, come check it out. It is completely free, and you can find the link to this in the video description. Either way, if you do end up checking it out or not, this has been today's market update. Thank you very much for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.